Hey there, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are doing an NFL mock draft for 2023. This is our first rendition of it this fall. We're really excited to present it to you. Now, jumping right into it, at Atlanta, number one, I think there's a lot of question marks at the quarterback position long term. However, with the idea that Desmond Ridder could be their franchise quarterback, if they are selecting number one, are they hard pressed to pass on a guy like CJ Stroud or Bryce Young? That's the question Atlanta's front office is going to have to ask themselves. Do they feel confident with Desmond Ridder moving forward? And I think the answer is for them, very possibly. Something that they've been lacking for, the last couple of seasons is guys that can rush the pass, the quarterback at an elite level. And Will Anderson, to me, is way too tough to pass up on. He's the best defensive player in all of college football. He's super explosive. He's a guy that gets after the quarterback consistently. He defends the run at an elite level, and I think he's the complete package as an overall pass rusher. So Will Anderson is going to be going to Atlanta at one. Now you're sitting there with the Houston Texans. A lot of things have to change within this organization to continue to get better. I think that they are better than people give them credit for. However, this roster has a long way to go. And kind of considering where they're at, I think that it's very possible that they, consider Davis Mills the scapegoat with how this goes this year. Whether or not that it's his fault or not, that they are, to the point where they're at in terms of, the end of the year record. I just don't see them having a very good win loss. Therefore, the quarterback very well might be the one pegged with, the blame game essentially. So I definitely could see the Houston Texans here looking at that quarterback position. I also think, they might look at a guy like Jalen Carter, Miles Murphy. I don't know exactly if they would make that jump, but I think it is possible at that spot. Maybe they do feel comfortable with Davis Mills moving forward. I'm actually going to opt to go with Jalen Carter after just kind of, processing that a little bit. I think Jalen Carter makes a lot of sense. This defense is getting so much better. Selecting Derek Stingley this past year, and now going ahead and selecting an absolute beast in Jalen Carter, a guy that is so nimble and so athletic for his size, the ability to absolutely disrupt the run at an elite level, and also has a lot of juice for the pass rush. So overall, a very, very complete, well-rounded player for the Houston Texans. Now you kind of jump course to the Detroit Lions, a team that played Philly very, very close today. I think when you kind of look at where the Detroit Lions are, they are definitely lacking in that quarterback department. They were waiting for one of these big time guys to go. I think CJ Stroud is going to be the pick. Now, Bryce Young, a lot of people love him. A lot of people like CJ Stroud, but I think that they'll actually opt to go with CJ Stroud, a guy that can make all the throws, is pretty athletic, smart with the football, and knows how to put up, big time numbers as well at the collegiate level. I think that will translate to the NFL, and they will go ahead and select him here at three. Number four, we have the Seattle Seahawks. This is once again a big question of, what do they have in that quarterback room? And I think the board has fallen to them perfectly where Houston opts to not take a quarterback. And once again, Bryce Young is on the board, a guy that very well could go, one realistically with his overall skill set, his demeanor, his leadership. I think he has the culmination of becoming a very, very good franchise quarterback in this league. Seattle will be looking for a quarterback in this draft. I think there's no mistake about it. So I'm going to go ahead and select Bryce Young with that selection. Now you have the New York Jets, and the New York Jets, once again, this is a team that knows how to, make good draft selections under the Joe Douglas era. We look at, what he did in the first round last year. Jermaine Johnson was a big time get. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. He absolutely hit the first round out of the park. Now, I think that this is kind of a position where you look at, wow, there's just so much talent across the board, quite frankly. Miles Murphy could make some sense, but, Brian Bresee could be that guy for them. Another, phenomenal interior player that could make some sense. Definitely an athletic, bigger guy. I think what he offers from a run stopping standpoint is enough to sell the New York Jets. This team definitely could be, once again, maybe looking at the wide receiver position, but I feel like they're pretty good, just considering the talent that is on the board with Smith and Jigba and Kayshon Boutte. I just don't think that the Jets would necessarily go down that route. I think Brissy is going to be that selection for them. Pick number 6, we have Jacksonville. Jacksonville is in dire need of a wide receiver. Boutte has actually struggled out of the gate in the college season. Definitely had a very, very quiet game against Florida State. Now, I don't think he is wide receiver 1 right now in a lot of people's eyes. I think that is more reserved for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jacksonville definitely needs to draft another wide receiver, in my opinion. I think it's clear. I think it's obvious. Marvin Jones is going to be gone after this season. Definitely piecing together a guy like Christian Kirk. Now Smith and Jigba added into the mix. We'll just add another layer of weapons for Trevor Lawrence at this point. So Jackson Smith and Jigba here. Number 7, we have the Carolina Panthers, and the Carolina Panthers, once again, are kind of in a position where they got a lot of work to do across the board. Myles Murphy is still here. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. And if you're going to go based off of, just pure ability and upside, he's the best player available on this board. That's clear to me. And I look at Carolina as a team that very well could look for, another pass rusher in this vicinity. I also think they could look corner again as well. Ringo could make some sense, but Myles Murphy, he's a guy that's just too talented to pass up on here at number 7. Number 8, you have the Chicago Bears. Chicago needs a wide receiver. They have to get another wide receiver in that room to make that bearable for Justin Fields. Boutte, despite the slow start, I think he's going to recover nicely in that second half. Jaden Daniels is his quarterback, the former Arizona State transfer at LSU. They're trying to work out the kinks in the offense. And I think Boutte is going to save his draft stock and go here to Chicago. Number 9, you have the New York Giants. The New York Giants are in a position here where I could definitely see them looking at that corner spot for sure. They could be looking in a number of different places. I don't know if I absolutely love that direction. I kind of like the idea of them going corner here. I think, Kelee Ringo, former 5-star recruit, a big time corner here for Georgia, could make a lot of sense. There's another guy that I think is going to continue to ascend his draft stock here, and that's Eli Ricks. Now, he's a little bit lower on the PFF rankings, but I definitely think he could find his way up there with his size and length and athleticism. He could find himself at that 9th pick, but Kelee Ringo here for sure. Now we jump to Washington. Washington is also in a position where they can beef up in a numerous amount of areas. I think it's kind of interesting to see, if they run a couple more 2 tight end sets, they can kind of work Logan Thomas and Michael Mayer in there. I definitely see that being a good outcome for them. So I'm going to have him go there to Washington. Now, number 11, Pittsburgh has to draft an offensive lineman. Peter Skaronski from Northwestern is a terrific tackle, very, very fundamentally sound, good contact balance, at that position, being able to absorb hits and remain upright in a good athletic position. So Skaronski here to Pittsburgh. Followed up by the Minnesota Vikings. And the Minnesota Vikings, looking at what they currently have, I could see them going corner again. I know they went with Andrew Booth. They have Cam Dantzler on roster. They have Patrick Peterson. But I definitely think corner is another spot that they could address once again. Garrett Williams here. But I'm going to say that Eli Ricks is going to be the pick. They're trying to reshape the secondary. Eli Ricks is the pick here for the Vikings. At number 13, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Philadelphia Eagles are a very talented team, very, very talented team that you can see them go in a lot of different directions. With the amount of corners that are still available here, with Garrett Williams and Antonio Johnson. Antonio Johnson is definitely opening people's eyes, rising up draft boards, and I could see them going right here with Johnson. Pick number 14, you have the Raiders, and the Raiders are in a position here where offensive line to me is the most critical need for them. Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones are some of the main guys I'm seeing here that could make some sense. Zion Nelson. For me personally, I think Broderick Jones is going to be the pick here. The Raiders reshaping that offensive line, and therefore I like that for them. They have a very talented offense to begin with, but they need to be better up front. Now you have the New England Patriots, and this is a team historically that's going to go ahead and draft some rotational guys along that defensive line. They like drafting for depth in that secondary. But they also, I think the idea is here for them. Once again, getting a guy that has high pass rushing upside that you can play in multiple different spots. That's Nolan Smith, big time player at Georgia. He was one of the highest rated recruits out of his recruiting class, had a slow year one, and then now he's starting to kind of pick up where a lot of people thought he should be. Now, if you're the Tennessee Titans, obviously going from Traylon Burks last year to now you're kind of sitting in a position where what's next? What's next for this team? Offensive line is still something that I would consider if I were them. I wouldn't stop at that wide receiver spot either. I mean, Jordan Addison is a guy that will continuously work his way up boards. I definitely think that Tennessee could, further gather some weapons in this offense, and I will have Jordan Addison here from USC go, the former Pitt transfer. Now at 17, we have the Houston Texans, and considering where we went before, I kind of like the idea of doubling down and getting maybe another guy along that defensive line. Andre Carter II, Felix Anudke, Uzama is probably going to be the guy I go with here. Just considering Houston is in a position where they want to build up this defense. They have some nice pieces on offense, but defensively, they got to get a little bit stronger as well. Pick 18, once again, you have the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles, it's incredible with what they have currently, and the fact that they have 2 first rounders next year is something that's pretty exciting for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and get some more pass rushing versatility, personally speaking. They like what they have at the receiver room, so I'm not super worried about that. Robinson is another guy that I could see. However, maybe they're going to continue to run Miles Sanders again, or do they just want that guy who's going to be an absolute stud at that running back position? But I don't really see it going that way. Jacqueline Roy is one of those players that he could make some sense on that interior, a guy that could be a true impact guy in that front 7. So I'll go ahead and go Roy here to Philadelphia, followed by the Baltimore Ravens. Now, with some questions at that quarterback position, are they going to go ahead and get a deal done with Lamar Jackson? That makes you think about a guy like Tanner McKee. Let's see some other quarterbacks that are available. Will Levis is still here. That could have made some sense maybe for Houston there. But, I mean, I was operating under the idea that they like Davis Mills enough to hold on to him. Anthony Richardson as well. I mean, if Baltimore is feeling that, I could see them looking at that quarterback room. But with what's currently available, I definitely see Baltimore once again, maybe dipping the well again, going a corner, or maybe another guy in the interior. Siaki Ika from Baylor could make some sense here. I'm going to go there once again, beef up that interior, that's defensive line. Pick 20, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and the Arizona Cardinals here. It's tough. It's really tough. I think looking at what they currently have on roster, I think some interior defensive line or just another edge rusher in general could make some sense. Isaiah Foskey is probably my pick here. Getting some help for Arizona up front, being able to address the pass rushing. I think they need to get better there. I think they need to get better in their secondary as well. So that's going to be my pick there. 21, we have Seattle. Seattle, a lot of things that they have to do, especially, that back end defensively, maybe a linebacker. Let's kind of see what we do have at that linebacking position. Noah Sewell, I like his versatility, and I think he could kind of embody, what the Seattle Seahawks stand for. I definitely see Noah Sewell being a Seattle Seahawk. Now you have the Chargers, and the Chargers here, a lot of different places they can go, but I think they can continue to address their offensive line. I like the idea of a guy like Paris Johnson. I'm going to go ahead and select him here. The Chargers definitely should address that offensive line position, whether he ends up being a tackle or a guard. He does have that versatility that could, play to the favor of the LA Chargers. At 23, we have the Miami Dolphins, and kind of looking here. Let me just now their other pick was forfeited. So now you have to look at what else is still available here. They paid Chase Edmonds big money. I could see them look along that offensive line. Very possible that they do that. I'm it's a little tougher for me in Miami to kind of figure out where they're kind of feeling. I think along the offensive line that could make some sense. Zion Nelson, a guy that was thinking about coming out last year, ends up opting to stay another year. Zion Nelson to me makes a ton of sense. Followed by the Indianapolis Colts. This team definitely lacking some overall explosiveness. I definitely think they would be it would be beneficiary of them. Well, you know what? What does Matt Ryan's future look like? Will Levis has fallen all the way to them. I love this selection here. Falls quite a ways, but Will Levis at 24. At 25, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Once again, could definitely see a couple of different directions for them. Maybe looking at that wide receiver room once again. I know they like Jalen Tolbert, but with the loss of a guy like Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup's injuries, and you already have CD Lamb, they'd like to take playmakers, and why not stay in state and take a guy like Quentin Johnston, an explosive playmaker from TCU, fits right into this Dallas Cowboy offense and will be a part of their prolific passing attack. At 26, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cincinnati Bengals, a lot of struggles on the offensive line. I think on their interior, they could definitely go for a guy like, Gervin Dexter Sr. could make some sense. Outside of that, yeah, I just, this is definitely a team that you have to consider, getting some help on that interior, want to shore up their, defensive run stopping. But I struggle there with Tyler Shelvin, kind of being in the mix there. Andre Carter is still here. He has lasted a long time in this mock. I would be hard pressed also not to look at, Garrett Williams. This is probably the tougher one that I've came across for them. We're going to go ahead and draft. We're going to draft a tackle. We're going to draft a tackle. We're going to get some more offensive line help. Or do you go with Cooper Beebe from Kansas State? Yeah, I think you have to address the offensive line. And once again, should have some versatility here when you take a guy like Blake Freeland. Their offensive line has got to get better. They address it in the offseason. They got to do it again. I would go again and take another stab at it as well. Obviously, signing La'el Collins was huge, but there's still work to be done. 27 with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are in a position here where they could land a super talented pass rusher yet. And, looking at what we did before, we'd selected CJ Stroud. I think it's super beneficial for them to look along that offensive or that defensive line, improve their trenches. Andre Carter is the pick for me. Now in Green Bay, they drafted Christian Watson. They like Romeo Doubs. I could see, the wide receiver position. I got some questions. I really don't love what they have. I really don't love what they have at that point at those spots. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of there. Kind of look at once again what we all have. Maybe we look for another edge rusher. I think a guy like BJ Ojolari can really get at the quarterback at an effective rate. A player that can set the edge defensively again, on the run. So Ojolari is my selection here for Green Bay. Now, pick 29, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. I wouldn't be completely shocked, honestly, if they took a look at Robinson. Robinson could be a terrific running back for this team. Edwards-Helaire is a guy that hasn't really worked out to exactly what they felt he would be, but selecting him at this spot, to me, makes some sense. They could also look, in that secondary again. Garrett Williams is still here. That's a tough one. I feel like getting another guy in that secondary, and once again, having corner depth and guys that are just good corners in general, you can't have too many good corners in this league. So, I understand last year they addressed it, but once again, you got to go back to the well, especially in the division that they're playing in. Tampa Bay now. Tampa Bay is sitting here at 30. Tampa Bay has to look, to me, potentially at quarterback. I don't think Trask is the answer long term. I'm going to go with the guy like Anthony Richardson, the ability to run the ball very, very effectively, a guy that has a massive arm, huge frame, and has long-term upside. To me, Anthony Richardson here at 30 makes a ton of sense, especially with all the rumors about Tom Brady. And then finally, you get to Buffalo, and Buffalo very well could be looking in a numerous amount of directions. I kind of like the idea long term of, the versatility of a guy like Brandon Joseph. I know their safety situation now looks good. Maybe they wait a year to address that, but Trenton Simpson as well could add to a very, very interesting linebacking room going into next year. So I'm going to go with a guy like Trenton Simpson from Clemson. So kind of looking holistically at what we were able to do with our draft as soon as it gets done here. They're going to go ahead and make their grades, their presumptive grades on, what our picks were. So overall, I mean, I like where this team is, where this mock draft ended up. A couple of things to note, maybe Will Levis goes earlier to one of the other QB needy teams. Maybe this turns into Will Levis. But once again, I was kind of operating on the idea that maybe they like Davis Mills long term. So that's why I had them go with Jalen Carter. That's why I had them, pass again on a quarterback with their 2 first round selections. So that was the rationale behind that. But overall, I love what we were able to see here, holistically speaking. I think Eli Ricks to the Vikings is obviously very fun. Nolan Smith is a true embodiment of the Patriot way. As you can see here, a lot of Georgia players coming off the board, a lot of Clemson Tigers as well. Obviously Alabama is very, very well represented here too. So let me know in the comment section below, what was your favorite pick? What would you change about this mock? Had a lot of fun making this. Also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let me know for the next video on, where some of these other guys that I might have missed should be going in the first round. So once again, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.